Hello, grade 7. We're moving on through chapter 5. We've been talking about the Acadians and how Acadia was a strategic point for the military for both France and Britain, and how Britain wanted it so badly so they could stop French troops from coming in. Now that that's been established, we're talking about the different battles and things that happen in North America for control of the territory. So 1754, Britain and France begin to fight, as we kind of just talked about here, for control of that area and more. 1756, they start fighting everywhere. So they're enemies. Anywhere they're occupying the same area, they start to fight, taking each other's colonies, destroying. So it becomes a global war. And that happens for 7 years, hence the 7 Years' War. In 1760, Britain attacks and controls Quebec, which has been France's biggest stronghold in New France and Canada for the longest time. So that was a big deal. They also take Guadeloupe, which is a France colony, which is super important to them because they have sugarcane, profitable crop there. 1763, after all this fighting, they decide, we'll settle this. France and Britain sign it. France will give up its North America control. It won't be there anymore. It'll get right out. In doing that, though, they make sure the people living there, the Allies, don't get thrown out. The people in New France get to stay, and we'll talk about that with the Quebec Act, the Royal Proclamation coming on, but they get to stay, so they do negotiate a good deal for the people living there. So North America goes to Britain and part of it to Spain. You look on the map I've posted. The biggest thing here is France keeps Guadeloupe, and they actually, for them, that was a better deal at this time. Yeah, there were people, their allies in Canada, but Guadeloupe is more profitable now with the sugarcane than the furs are. By this time, they're kind of getting out of the fur craze is over. So getting Guadeloupe back, that was important. Plus, for some reason, Britain let them still come and have a colony, or a cod fishery. They could fish and get caught. So they're getting fish in North America and sugarcane in Guadeloupe. So that's actually making them more money than controlling the land in Canada. So France actually comes out ahead in this, in a sense. Yeah, Britain gets the whole land mass and territory, which isn't there, as we know, the Indigenous living there. But now they have to decide what to do with it and how to defend it from anybody else. Okay, so that's kind of a big deal there. We'll talk about that. It's on page 155 and 158. Read about it. The battle, though, the Plains of Abraham, is on 156 and 157. So I posted a couple of videos about this. General James Wolfe of the British and General Montcalm of the French are the two guys that are doing this. And they're both really good in their job, and they both have strategic things they're doing. James Wolfe tries a couple really daring ideas how to get into New France, into the Quebec area. Some work, some don't. Watch the video there. But eventually they meet up on this farmer's field. I think it was owned by a person named Abraham. They call it the Plains of Abraham. So they have this battle, and if you watch the videos, they basically line up against each other. And Britain is really smart. They line all their troops across the whole land, making it look like there's a whole mile wide of people. But it's not very deep. It looks like there's a lot of people, but really it's not. They're just making it look really wide instead of doing 2 or 3 deep to make the French troops think there's a ton of people, because they're waiting for backup. Okay, so Britain's waiting for backup. The French come in and they start shooting, but they're so far away it's not doing anything. So Britain's just waiting and waiting. When the French troops get close enough, then this wide line starts firing at the French, and they retreat back into Quebec. Eventually, Britain captures the fortress of Quebec. They bomb it, they bombard it when the reinforcements come, and they just destroy it, and the people there basically can't survive anymore. There's no fresh water, no food, and they kind of give up. Eventually, as more French troops come in 1760 in April, they have another little battle at St. Foy, and the British troops are now stuck in Quebec, and basically French takes back the area around. So they both kind of had a victory here, back and forth. So nobody's really won. The main thing comes down to this. they're both stuck in for the winter and they're waiting for reinforcements. And if you do the readings and watch the videos, in the end, Britain's troops get there first through the ice with their ships and bring reinforcements. And that's kind of how they won the battle. It's not because they militarily or better, they just both are running out of supplies and they're hungry and they need water and food. And Britain's troops get there first, so eventually France has to surrender for its people that are starving and need help. So both have a strategic battle and win back and forth, and eventually just both say, enough of this, we have to surrender for our people. And that kind of leads over to here, the Treaty of Paris eventually, and Quebec and the territory goes to Britain. And as I mentioned, Britain gives up Guadeloupe back to France for the sugar cane, that's good for France, and France gets the codfish, what's going to make them money. So in the end, the French give up their claims for the land, but get to make profit from the fish in other areas, and Britain gets the land, and now they have to decide what they want to do with it, because there's not very many people of British descent living there, and that's kind of down the road. They start to send people there, immigration, and we'll kind of talk about that, how they kind of protect the land.